Hello. While being hunted by Australian police, this man once taunted authorities by posting the message, "Catch me if you can," on his Facebook account. He was considered the #1 target for continuously supplying drugs to the country for many years. Australian crime intelligence estimated that he earned a staggering $1.5 billion annually. For over 2 decades, he lived a luxurious life and seemed to feel untouchable. But in the end, he got what he asked for. He was captured. However, that is certainly not the whole story. This is the story of the arrest of Hakan Ayik, Australia's biggest drug kingpin. Hakan's arrest in Istanbul was the result of months of preparation between Australian and Turkish authorities. According to Turkey's Interior Minister, Mr. Ali Yerlikaya, the operation codenamed Operation Cage specifically targeted the Comanchero gang of Australia, formerly led by the now murdered Mick Howie. The entire operation took place on November 2, 2023, and was meticulously documented. Across Istanbul, well-trained police units raided multiple homes, capturing nearly all targets in one sweep. Most of these individuals truly believed they were untouchable. For a long time, their corrupt connections allowed them to live comfortably in Turkey, but that is no longer the case. Believing they were beyond reach, many of them were shocked when they were arrested. For instance, one of them was calmly having dinner at his table when he was taken into custody. This shows that Operation Cage was very well planned and executed, delivering significant results. A total of over 37 people were arrested with an estimated $250 million in cash, bank accounts, luxury assets like watches, real estate, company shares, and 23 vehicles seized. Furthermore, the Turkish authorities decided to do something quite surprising with these vehicles. Acting Deputy Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police for Crime, Mr. Grant Nichols expressed his satisfaction with the arrests, especially the capture of public enemy #1, Hakan Ayik. In a press conference, he said, "This proves that one of the biggest mistakes organized crime has made is believing they cannot be caught anywhere in the world. They may think they are untouchable. They may think they can escape justice, but that is entirely false." Now, quickly back to the story of the 23 seized vehicles, most of which belonged to Hakan. What did the Turkish authorities do with these cars? They turned them into police vehicles fully equipped with police logos and flashing lights. Interior Minister Mr. Yerlikaya proudly posted a video showing all these vehicles lined up. The video features many luxury cars like Mercedes, Audi, Ferrari, Bentley, Range Rover, and Porsche, all top-of-the-line models. However, there were also some more modest vehicles like Volvo, Skoda, Nissan, and Peugeot. According to the minister, this wasn't just a promotional video. In his message, he said, "From now on, these vehicles will be used by our police and in the service of our nation, not for criminal organizations." This means that all of these cars will actually be used for patrolling the streets of Istanbul. Can you imagine being pulled over by the police in a Bentley? However, this decision has sparked some controversy, with many people arguing that it would have been better to sell these cars and buy regular police vehicles instead. You can imagine that maintaining a Ferrari or Bentley would be much more expensive than a typical Skoda. Nonetheless, this entire operation was quite the spectacle. So, what made Hakan the big fish and the most wanted man in Australia for over 2 decades? To understand this better, we need to go back to the early 2000s in Australia. Hakan, born in 1979, started getting involved in small-scale drug trafficking when he was in his early 20s. Despite witnessing many of his family members struggle with addiction, Hakan was determined to build an empire, tempted by the enormous profits that could be made. The drug market in Australia is highly lucrative because the country's remote location makes access to drugs more difficult, and prices reflect this. For instance, a gram of cocaine on the streets of the Netherlands or Belgium costs around €50 or 80 Australian dollars. According to the annual report from the Ecstasy and Related Drugs Reporting System, the average price of that same gram in Australia can reach up to €214 or 350 Australian dollars, meaning the price is 4 times higher than in the Netherlands and Belgium. We know that the Netherlands and Belgium have some of the largest ports in the world and are hubs for drug trafficking, but this shows that anyone who can get drugs into Australia can make a substantial amount of money, and Hakan was one of those people. By 2008, he had a thriving smuggling business and was increasingly focused on trafficking synthetic drugs. With the money he earned from the business, Hakan led a luxurious and wealthy life, owning new sports cars, expensive jewelry, or anything else he desired. To appear as a legitimate businessman, he bought several properties and businesses in his hometown of Sydney, as well as in Canberra. While Hakan was building an empire in the drug trade, some of his high school friends had now taken on high-ranking positions in the outlaw motorcycle gang Comancheros. One of these friends was Duax Dax Hohepa Ngakuru, the national president of the Comancheros. Hakan had no intention of joining the Comancheros, but he realized that forming an alliance with the gang could be beneficial for expanding his business. Hakan Ayik was not openly a member of the Comancheros, but he had a significant influence on what went on within the club, despite keeping a low profile. This was noted in a 2008 intelligence report by the Notorious Crime Commission. Hakan was one of the first drug traffickers willing to collaborate with outlaw motorcycle gangs, as they are called in Australia, to distribute his drugs across the country. As his empire expanded, Australian police became increasingly interested in him. However, it wasn't a seized shipment that led the police to investigate further. It was his purchase of a money-counting machine that prompted the New South Wales police to dig deeper into Hakan. In 2008, while Hakan was waiting for a flight at Sydney Airport, he received a notification on his phone. It was an alert from his home surveillance cameras, showing that a small group of police officers was beginning to search his house. Hakan quickly sent a few intimidating friends from the Comancheros to check on the situation, and just like that, the police operation was cut short. On March 5, 2008, a Piper Aztec plane landed at Jandakot Airport in Western Australia. Pilot Jamieson Santos was unaware that dozens of police officers were waiting for the plane's arrival. The officers ordered Santos and his companion Mikalitsi to exit the plane. Detective Moorish noticed a black duffel bag in the cargo hold. When he opened it, he immediately said, "Well, we've got a problem here." The duffel bag was filled with drugs, 22 kilograms of methamphetamine, and 30,000 ecstasy pills worth up to $8 million in total. This was the largest drug bust in Western Australian history and a memorable day for law enforcement officers. After further investigation, the police revealed that Mikalitsi was a drug courier for the Comancheros, and it was highly likely that this shipment belonged to Hakan. The flight from Bankstown to Jandakot took a total of 15 hours. The two men raised suspicion when Mikalitsi refused to leave the plane during a refueling stop, despite airport regulations requiring him to do so. If he had stepped outside, they might have succeeded, and Hakan might have ended the police operation that day when he sent friends from the Comancheros to his home. After that, seized shipment law enforcement became even more determined to investigate him. They decided to launch a new operation called Operation Hoffman. During the thorough investigation, they discovered that Hakan had contacts with members of Chinese triad gangs linked to the Sam Gore crime syndicate, one of the world's largest and wealthiest criminal organizations, formerly led by Tsai Chi-lop. These connections with the triad gangs opened up numerous business opportunities for Hakan. These gangs often owned large factories in China, producing massive quantities of precursor chemicals necessary for manufacturing synthetic drugs. However, Hakan didn't want to rely on a single ally for his supply, so he also sought additional Indian allies. By the end of 2009, selfies of Hakan surfaced showing him standing in a pharmaceutical lab in India. Simultaneously, the police found several documents related to the purchase of large quantities of chemicals needed to produce drugs. This evidence indicated that he was setting up his own industrial-scale synthetic drug lab, eliminating the need for middlemen. Week by week, investigators uncovered more information about Hakan. They also discovered that he had numerous corrupt port and airport staff, as well as a corrupt government official who shared crucial police intelligence with him and a prison officer who relayed messages from Hakan to his incarcerated accomplices. Some of his corrupt contacts were arrested shortly after being discovered by the police. One of them had over 40 kilograms of meth in his house when he was arrested, which truly showed that Hakan had quickly risen in the underworld and was a formidable figure. It can be said that 2009 was the time when Operation Hoffman led to the arrest of the low-hanging fruit, that is, lower-level criminals, which then provided clues to trace the bigger players. Because by 2010, the police began taking down one by one the key figures in the criminal organization led by Hakan. At that time, Hakan was vacationing in Hong Kong when one of his most trusted associates was arrested. This prompted him to decide that returning to Australia was too dangerous, so he fled to Europe and the Middle East. The Facebook criminal couldn't resist the temptation to taunt Australian police on his Facebook page, writing, "Catch me if you can." And so the chase began when an Interpol arrest warrant was issued in July 2010, officially making Hakan Ayik a wanted man. 2 months later, Hakan ran into serious trouble when he attempted to enter Cyprus and was stopped by border control due to suspicions about his passport. However, Hakan managed to escape, reportedly after bribing the border officials, narrowly avoiding the fate he had been trying to evade. At the end of December 2010, Hakan's luck ran out. News spread that Cypriot police had captured him. Police back home in Australia were, of course, thrilled to hear the news, but they were about to receive a big surprise. Instead of extraditing Hakan, Cyprus released him on bail. Immediately, Hakan escaped again, leaving no trace behind. Quite a shock, isn't it? What do you think? Was it right to grant him bail, or had he bribed someone to secure an easy release? Regardless, the Australian authorities decided to seize some of Hakan's assets and businesses in an attempt to pressure him, but this yielded no results. By this time, Hakan had made so much money that a few $1,000,000 more or less didn't matter to him. Moreover, he continued to smuggle large quantities of drugs into Australia, even while on the run. Meanwhile, several official sources reported that Hakan's net worth was nearing $1 billion. This figure was estimated based on several seized shipments owned by him, including a 2014 haul of 1.9 tons of ecstasy and 850 kilograms of methamphetamine, valued at around $1.6 billion. This seizure was later described by Prime Minister Tony Abbott as the second largest drug bust in Australian history. A year later, the police seized another shipment worth over €100 million. After years of silence and surprising everyone, the Facebook criminal reappeared on social media. In a blurry video on the Instagram account of the King Cross Hotel in Istanbul, a man was seen through a reflection. He was dressed in black, filming the hotel's logo, and seemingly unaware that he also captured himself on camera. Upon closer inspection, it was identified as Hakan Ayik. The man, who had been on the run for years, seemed to be in Turkey, a clue leading to another clue. After conducting a digital investigation, Hakan appeared in a photo from an event in Turkey. Although his face was edited to conceal his identity, but his hairline and body shape gave him away. The name of the hotel also reminded investigators of something: King's Cross in Sydney, long known for its bikie gangs, strip clubs, and crime lords. Turkish business records also revealed that the owner of this hotel was also named Hakan, although his surname was Reis. The word Reis in Turkish translates to leader or commander in English. Could it be that Hakan Ayik changed his name to reflect his power and prestige? The hotel's logo was also a crown. Quite the coincidence, right? If that wasn't enough evidence, official identity records and birth certificates provided further proof. These records showed that Hakan Reis had previously gone by a different name and had renounced his Australian citizenship in 2019, retaining only his Turkish passport. Hakan likely felt invincible and unbeatable in Turkey for about 10 years, knowing that Australian police couldn't directly apprehend him. However, by 2023, we know the curtain has finally fallen on Hakan. Although it wasn't the Australian police who directly arrested him, but their persistence and cooperation with Turkey undoubtedly played a significant role. It's still unclear whether Hakan will be extradited, and if so, to which country. You might think that Australia would do everything possible to bring him before an Australian court, but that's not entirely certain. Remember, Hakan renounced his Australian citizenship, so Australian authorities are leaning toward having Hakan prosecuted in Turkey as a Turkish citizen rather than pursuing a lengthy and complicated extradition process. It should also be noted that the United States is seeking to extradite Hakan as well. In 2021, he was indicted by the FBI in connection with the Anom encrypted devices and faces a maximum prison sentence of 20 years. In short, this raises the question: is Turkey now at the forefront of cleaning up crime and removing the most notorious criminals hiding within its borders? For example, if we look at Dubai, another place where notorious criminals often reside, they have been taking steps to clean up their streets over the past few years. They have arrested wanted criminals and extradited them out of the city. This is partly due to pressure from other countries, which have seen their primary targets living freely in Dubai, as well as Dubai's desire to shed its image as a safe haven. Similar pressure is now being placed on Turkey. Other nations are unhappy with Turkey's passport program, which makes it easy for criminals to enter the country with a large sum of money. Some might argue that these arrests are just for show, a way for Turkey to say, "Look, we are actively fighting crime within our country." Meanwhile, many criminals still live there. As of now, Turkey has succeeded in removing several criminals from its streets. Only time will tell whether they will continue to do so or gradually let it slide. When you hear the name Mr. Dog Food, the first thing that might come to your mind could be a dog lover or someone who owns a dog food company, right? No, you might be completely mistaken if you have such an innocent thought. This is the story of Rollo Stills, also known as Mr. Dog Food, and how he became the biggest drug dealer in Atlanta. Born on February 12, 1995 in Atlanta, Georgia, Rollo started life under the name Terrell Davis. It was only later as an adult that he became commonly known by his stage name Rollo Stills, which he chose for his rap career. Rollo didn't have an easy start in life, as he was born in what was considered the most dangerous area of Atlanta's suburbs and the fifth most dangerous in the entire United States. This area, often referred to as the Bluff, is located around the English Avenue and Vine City neighborhoods. Many magazines have described this area as an open-air drug market with snow on the ground, being a nickname for heroin. One journalist even recalled being chased by dealers while driving through the area. But drugs weren't the only problem. The Bluff was infamous for its high crime rate, where violence was a regular part of daily life. The area was so bad that an average house would only cost about $10,000. Imagine growing up in such a place. It's not exactly a breeding ground for opportunities to improve one's life, and Rollo was no exception. With the foundation laid by his father, a major drug dealer, Rollo was almost destined to follow in his father's footsteps from an early age. As a child, he was in and out of juvenile detention for various reasons, including drug dealing, armed robbery, and even kidnapping. Before reaching adulthood, Rollo claimed to have been jailed 32 times. In many high-crime areas, a few gangs run the Bluff, but the gang Rollo was loyal to was Fam America. His gang would later be recognized as Atlanta's most dangerous street gang for 2 consecutive years. By the time Rollo reached his teenage years, he was already out on the streets selling drugs, specifically crack, earning him the nickname Dog Food. Crack is the street term used by gangs as a code word for drugs. However, Rollo had bigger dreams for his life. He wanted to make a lot of money and quickly build a reputation on the streets by dealing as much as possible. By the time he reached his 20s, Rollo claimed to have made over $12 million from drug dealing, but this wasn't necessarily good news for the young man. Publicly boasting about it to the world was bound to get him into trouble. In 2012, Rollo started using social media to post his highlights. These posts often featured photos of the young man posing in front of the camera with massive stacks of cash, all of which were earned from selling crack. However, after a short stint in jail, Rollo decided he wanted to take his rap career seriously. He had started rapping at the age of 11, but since his main job was dealing drugs, it wasn't until one of his last stints in jail that he decided to focus on his music career. Rollo began working with his childhood friend and fellow rapper, Young Scooter. On November 3, 2014, they released their first song, Stay Focus, and later on January 26, 2015, they released their second song, F.A. Show. However, breaking into the rap scene at that time was challenging. Rollo knew he had to spend some money if he wanted to become a big name in the rap game. So he decided to use some of his drug money to approach rapper Future and ask him to feature on his new song. At first, Rollo didn't know how to approach Future, since the rapper was known for not wanting to talk to people he didn't respect. However, in a strange twist, Rollo managed to befriend him thanks to his jewelry. It's well known that Future has a fondness for anything related to jewelry, as long as it's expensive. With a chain worth over $30,000, Rollo caught Future's attention. After paying $25,000, Future featured in Rollo's new song, titled Can't Lie, released on May 4th, 2015, which quickly became a hit. Today, Can't Lie has garnered over 7 million views on YouTube. This song helped Rollo stand out in the rap scene, and he was eager to continue with more tracks and even an album. However, as his fame grew, Rollo began facing issues related to his connections with his gang. Soon after, news outlets reported that he was part of a dangerous criminal organization. Rollo tried to change the public's perception of Fam America, claiming that it wasn't a gang and that he had rebranded it to establish a foundation and community center in his area. However, this claim was quickly proven false. Over time, Rollo's identity as a drug dealer and gang member wasn't helped by his frequent posts of photos and videos showing him with hundreds of thousands of dollars. This wasn't the kind of money he earned from his early rap career, and these photos would come back to haunt him in the future. By 2016, Rollo's rap career was on the rise with numerous social media posts flaunting his massive wealth. At first glance, it seemed like this Atlanta rapper had succeeded in escaping his difficult childhood and building a better life for himself. However, it wasn't long before Rollo began boasting in interviews about how he had made over $12 million from dealing drugs before becoming a rapper. He even claimed that he made more money from selling drugs than from rapping. Despite this, Rollo continued to release new songs in 2016, many of which featured well-known and beloved rappers in the industry. By this time, Rollo started bragging on social media about owning around 5 houses and 26 apartment buildings in his neighborhood in the Bluff. These apartment buildings were in fact where Fam America conducted all its gang activities. Not suspicious at all, right? Clearly, no matter how successful Rollo became, he didn't want to completely sever ties with his past. By 2017, things were really going well for Rollo. On February 12th, 2017, he announced that he had become a newly signed partner with Gucci Mane, a rap legend in Atlanta. This was a big step forward for Rollo, as it meant he was on the verge of success in his rap career. On April 25th, 2017, Rollo released a song called Rollo Escobar, seemingly implying that he was still a drug kingpin in Atlanta. In an interview, he also revealed that the apartment complex where his gang lived was called Pakistan, and he claimed they weren't dealing drugs from there. Instead, he said he provided everything the gang needed with his own money. If that were true, I don't think the police would be so interested in him. Rollo was clearly aware he was under the authorities' watch when he stated on social media that agents were constantly surveilling him. This didn't stop him from posting photos and videos of himself with lots of money, and he even publicly taunted the police, claiming they couldn't do anything to him. By the end of 2017, Rollo was no longer pretending that the money he flaunted came from rapping. Instead, he posted a short video on social media where he held a large bag of cash and declared that he had made all that money in just 20 minutes on the streets. To make matters worse, he bragged about his crew carrying machine guns. This probably wasn't a smart move, But Rollo rarely took the time to think about what he was saying on camera. He seemed unable to resist provoking law enforcement or boasting about the money he made from selling drugs. On October 9, 2017, Rollo was driving his Lamborghini around the city when he was pulled over by the police. During the stop, Rollo live-streamed on Instagram and recorded a video mocking the police, saying they didn't make money and suggesting they should work for him by selling drugs on the streets. Without facing any consequences from the traffic stop video, Rollo ended 2017 by releasing one of the biggest songs of his career, Lil Kali and Pakistan. This song, named after his gang's territory, has garnered over 23 million views on YouTube. However, things were about to take a serious turn. With all the money Rollo was making and the indirect hints in his songs that he was still dealing drugs, Rollo had attracted a lot of attention from law enforcement. However, Rollo seemed completely unaware of this. On December 18, 2017, Rollo and dozens of his crew members boarded a private jet from Fulton County Airport to Sacramento, California. Authorities recorded the entire process with a team consisting of ATF, FBI, and Georgia State Police members tracking the private jet as it traveled to the new state. Then, on December 22nd, just a few days later, agents witnessed Rollo and his crew unloading 37 suspicious packages from the jet onto a truck. To make things even more suspicious, the gang ordered the crew not to touch any of the packages. Not wanting to reveal their presence too early, the agents allowed the gang to leave the airport. They then followed the truck from a distance before pulling it over for not having its headlights on. Clearly, the gang's efforts to be discreet were not enough to evade police surveillance. After checking the truck's information, police discovered that it was registered to Rollo's address. When they searched the truck, they found the 37 packages they had seen being unloaded from the plane. Inside the packages were 520 kilograms of heroin, valued at about $1 million. Unfortunately, Rollo wasn't in the truck, but a bag belonging to him was found in the vehicle. His crew members who were present were all arrested. Instead of staying silent after the arrests, Rollo continued to boast openly on social media, essentially incriminating himself. In one post, he claimed he had just lost $1 million in the blink of an eye, a sum matching the value of the drugs the police had just seized. Although the police hadn't arrested Rollo yet, it was clear they were just waiting for the right moment and gathering all the necessary evidence. In the months following the truck seizure, Rollo continued posting on social media, flaunting his immense wealth while taunting the police and claiming they couldn't touch him. Meanwhile, it seemed like the police were intensifying their investigation. In February 2018, Rollo posted a live video on Instagram as he retrieved his Lamborghini Aventador from the police impound lot after being arrested a few days earlier for a traffic violation. Then, on February 24th, his tour bus was pulled over and searched by the police, suggesting they were busy building a case against him. Despite this, Rollo seemed oblivious to the situation and continued posting videos and photos mocking the police. Everything came to a head in April 2018. On April 14th, 2018, the ATF and FBI received information that Rollo and some of his crew were about to repeat their drug trafficking activities. They had chartered a private jet to fly from Atlanta to Sacramento, California. Upon arriving in California, the police tracked Rollo's cell phone and discovered that he had gone to the infamous Murder Mountain in Humboldt County, a region known for its cannabis cultivation and featured in a Netflix documentary of the same name. It was clear that this was where Rollo and his crew were sourcing their drugs. After completing the trip, Rollo posted a photo on social media of himself with 5 men and 1 woman getting ready to board the private jet. On April 15th, when the jet finally landed back in Atlanta, agents were waiting. As soon as the plane came to a stop, the police sprang into action and arrested the passengers. Seeing the police on the tarmac, Rollo quickly shut the plane's door and refused to come out. After ignoring the police's orders, the officers had to forcibly open the plane's door. Once they did, they sent in a K-9 unit to apprehend Rollo. With all the suspects in custody, the police were granted permission to search the plane. During the search, they found 17 suspicious packages. All these packages contained at least 25 kilograms of heroin, totaling approximately 444 kilograms and valued at around $840,000. Just a few days after the arrest on April 17th, a full indictment was brought against Rollo. The police also received permission to search the apartment buildings that Rollo owned, where the Fam America gang operated. Naturally, they found plenty of evidence, including a gun belonging to Rollo. However, being caught red-handed didn't stop Rollo from continuing his activities. While awaiting trial, he continued to release new music and appeared to still be running his drug empire. According to the police, this situation became even more serious as his music contained anti-police content, particularly in a song titled 12 Can't Stop, where 12 inches is slang for the police. There were many efforts from both Rollo's lawyers and his fans to secure his release. Several petitions were created, gathering over 50,000 signatures, including those from rap stars like Drake, Lil Baby, and T.I. These petitions were sent to the president, requesting Rollo's release, but they clearly didn't have much impact. On February 19th, 2019, rumors circulated that Rollo was offered a plea deal with a 5-year prison sentence. However, Rollo rejected the offer, insisting that he wouldn't back down. Finally, on January 6, 2020, Rollo was granted bail at $250,000, but he was required to wear an ankle monitor and remain under 24-hour house arrest. While confined to a designated property and forbidden from communicating with the outside world via phone, email, or social media, the police received new information just before the bail agreement was finalized. It turned out that Rollo had continued his drug trafficking activities even while in jail, seemingly using his Apple Watch to do so. Finally, in March 2022, nearly 2 years after his arrest, Rollo went to trial, but the outcome wasn't what he had hoped for. Rollo was sentenced to 8 years in prison, but the time he had already served was credited, along with good behavior allowances, so Rollo would only have to serve a total of 5 years from the date of his arrest. After completing his sentence, Rollo was released in November 2023. According to him, within 2 months of his release, he spent over $2 million on new cars for friends and family, as their vehicles had been confiscated during the arrest. It's unclear whether Rollo has learned any lessons from his time in prison, but it's likely that he will continue to release music. However, whether he will continue his drug trade on the streets remains to be seen. Hopefully, he will focus more on music and less on drugs, but given his history, that's hard to say. If there are any new developments, I'll keep you updated. In today's video, we won't be delving into the usual criminals, those who are drawn into the underworld due to poverty or bad choices. Instead, this story revolves around a figure no one would expect, a renowned footballer known for his spectacular plays on the field, who once donned the jerseys of prestigious clubs like Ajax Amsterdam and Sevilla FC. What makes this video unique is that we won't be discussing his football career. This story involves serious allegations, legal battles, smuggling schemes, and extreme violence. This is the story of Quincy Promes, a footballer by day and a drug trafficker by night. Born on January 4th, 1992 in West Amsterdam, Quincy Promes had a challenging childhood. As a child, he played for Ajax's youth academy, but at 16, he was cut from the team. In 2009, he signed with the youth academy of FC Twente, and just 3 years later, on April 12, 2012, he made his debut in the Eredivisie, the top professional football league in the Netherlands. As a forward or attacking midfielder, he shone with his exceptional talent. To gain more experience, Quincy was loaned to Go Ahead Eagles, a club playing in FC Twente's lower division. The season was a success, and under the guidance of coach Erik ten Hag, Quincy had a brilliant season before returning to FC Twente, where he continued to impress. In 2014, he received an enticing offer from Spartak Moscow with a 4-year contract, and was also called up to the Dutch national team. At Spartak Moscow, Quincy had a spectacularly successful period, and in 2017, he celebrated his first major victory as Spartak Moscow won the Russian Premier League. He was also named Footballer of the Year in Russia and ended the 2017 to 2018 season as the top scorer of the Russian Premier League. However, his career wasn't always smooth sailing. In 2018, Quincy signed with Spain's Sevilla FC for a staggering 20 million euros, but his performance didn't meet expectations. Yet, he didn't let this setback dampen his spirits. In the summer of 2019, he returned to the Netherlands and signed with Ajax, the club he had played for in his youth. He quickly regained his form and became a key player, representing the Netherlands at UEFA Euro 2020 and showcasing his talent on the big stage. However, in late February 2021, Quincy suddenly returned to Spartak. Why this abrupt change? On July 24, 2020 in Abcoude, Netherlands, Quincy attended a family party. Besides his football career, he was also a rapper and performed with a live band at the party. After midnight, a heated argument erupted between Quincy and his cousin. Quincy accused his cousin of stealing money from his aunt. Tensions escalated and suddenly Quincy lunged at his cousin with a knife. The cousin tried to back away, but as his heel hit the curb, he fell. As he fell, Quincy rushed forward with the knife in hand. The attack was halted when they were separated and Quincy quickly left the party, but he had no idea that his phone calls were being monitored. The calls that night revealed many shocking details. At 1:02 a.m. on July 25th, in a fit of extreme rage, Quincy called his father, unleashing his frustration about his father's interference in the conflict with his cousin. Quincy shouted, "No, you jumped in between us." Quincy's father responded worriedly, "I didn't want you to get into trouble." Quincy coldly replied, "If it wasn't for you, I would have stabbed him to death. Do you understand?" A few minutes later, his mother called informing him, "Everyone has left. He's being taken to AMC. AMC is a hospital in Amsterdam." Quincy asked coldly, "Where did I stab him?" His mother replied, "In the leg." Quincy casually responded, "Well, he's lucky then. He won't die." About 20 minutes later, at 1:21 a.m., Quincy called his mother again, but this time, his younger brother answered. Quincy lowered his voice, "This is just a minor issue," and his brother quietly replied, "This is our right, bro." Quincy continued, "No, I should have stabbed him in the neck. Yes, this is minor. Next time, he'll get a bullet." In numerous other messages and calls, Quincy expressed pride in his actions, viewing himself as a soldier who restored the family's honor. But this was just the beginning of the story. Quincy had been under surveillance from the start for an unexpected reason. Before this incident, he was already suspected of involvement in other crimes. Quincy was being monitored by a special unit called TCI, the Criminal Intelligence Team, a group of police officers focused on organized crime in the Netherlands. You might wonder how a footballer got involved in organized crime, right? Don't worry, I'll explain it shortly. While everything was unfolding, Quincy continued to play for Ajax every weekend, but behind the scenes he was quietly trying to settle matters. In October 2020, Quincy sent two of his friends to meet his cousin with an enticing offer, 20,000 euros in cash. All his cousin had to do was sign a statement committing to withdraw his police report. Phone recordings revealed that this offer was not made politely, if it could be called that at all. An important detail is that at that time, Quincy's cousin hadn't yet filed a complaint. It wasn't until 4 months later, on November 17th, that his cousin officially reported the incident to the police. The media in the country were buzzing with news of this incident, yet Quincy had not been arrested. On December 9th, he played in the Champions League match with Ajax against Atalanta Bergamo. Although the police had planned to arrest Quincy for the incident at the family party, but they ultimately decided not to proceed. On December 10th, just one day after the intense Champions League match, the police executed a meticulously planned media strategy. They prepared questions and answers for the media. One of the crucial questions could have been, "Did you consider the Champions League matches?" The pre-written response was, "Yes, we did. But we also had to consider the severity of the incident and the time between the event and the police report. This is noteworthy because it seems to suggest that the police delayed arresting Quincy just because he was a famous footballer. Regardless, on December 12th, Quincy played another match, and finally, just a day later, he was arrested. During interrogation, Quincy admitted that he was at the party and that a heated argument had taken place. He stated that they both went outside and he was pushed away from his cousin before getting into a car and leaving. Quincy claimed he didn't find out that someone had been stabbed until later that night. On December 14th, Quincy was interrogated again. He said that he knew who had carried out the stabbing but didn't want to reveal the person's identity. Interestingly, on the 14th, one of Quincy's brothers-in-law confessed to the stabbing. However, after further questioning, the police asked him to leave as he didn't know any critical details about the incident and couldn't be the suspect. After just 2 nights in custody, Quincy was released, and a long period of silence followed until the end of February 2021. Surprisingly, Quincy moved from Ajax back to Spartak Moscow, the club he had previously played for. Ajax had bought him for 16 million euros and now sold him for 8.5 million euros, a deal that wasn't particularly advantageous. Notably, the contract stipulated that if Quincy was prosecuted, Spartak would not suffer any losses. In an interview, Quincy explained that the turmoil in the Netherlands influenced his decision not to stay. But did he foresee what was coming? Did he know more than we did at that time? Despite the upheaval, the accusations, and the fact that there was a complete case file ready to go to court, Quincy still joined the Dutch national team for the European Championship. The Ministry of Justice shelved his case for over a month, seemingly once again prioritizing his football career over prosecuting him for the charges. On November 18th, 2021, Quincy faced charges of attempted murder. However, after reviewing phone conversations, this charge was reduced to aggravated assault. By May 2023, the prosecutor sentenced him to 1.5 years in prison, as they could only prove it was a serious assault and nothing more. Quincy was not present in court as he was still in Moscow, and this is why Quincy was under the surveillance of the criminal intelligence team. He was being watched not just because of the conflict with his cousin, but also because he was suspected of involvement in drug trafficking and being part of an organized crime syndicate. The Amsterdam police had warned both Ajax and Quincy twice, informing them that he was surrounded by bad influences in the criminal underworld and advising him to stay away, but these warnings seemed to have no effect. You might think that with millions of euros from football, he wouldn't need to get involved in drug trafficking, right? After years of surveillance, prosecutors finally decided to charge Quincy in connection with 2 drug shipments. Intercepted PGP messages revealed that Quincy openly discussed his shipments and was deeply involved in a 650 kilograms shipment and a 712 kilograms shipment. The first shipment, cleverly hidden in bags of salt, was successfully transported, but luck didn't favor the second one. Part of that shipment was seized in Belgium, putting Quincy in a tough spot. Secret messages revealed that Quincy asked his accomplices when they wanted to receive 75,000 euros from his investment. He also discussed details about the location of the first container on the ship and the warehouse, where it needed to be unloaded in January 2020. A particularly incriminating message sent on February 25th, 2020 made the situation even more serious. Quincy wrote, "I'll let you know, my previous shipment only half succeeded. It was shipped in 2 containers, one arrived and one was seized, so my entire profit was halved. It's part of the business." The seized container was filled with bricks of drugs stamped with the image of a tiger. PGP messages referencing the black tiger provided additional evidence for the case coded under the name Porto. Quincy wasn't just a coordinator, but was actually the mastermind behind the shipments. His messages included directives like, "My guys are on their way to Antwerp," and "Let's get to work, keep me updated." He received photos of the container's door, its contents, and other details, proving he was running the operation rather than just being an outsider. Further investigation revealed that since 2018, the police had been gathering information indicating that Quincy was fully immersed in drug trafficking. He communicated via PGP phones and was believed to have invested 200,000 euros in a shipment from the notorious smuggler Piet Wortel. The hacked global PGP databases have provided undeniable evidence in the case against Quincy. Currently, Quincy remains in Russia, afraid to return to Europe, especially to the Netherlands. He knows all too well that he is on the brink of being arrested the moment he sets foot outside Russia. Quincy has officially been sentenced to 1.5 years in prison for the assault on his cousin. Regarding the smuggling activities, the next court hearing is scheduled for August 11, 2023. His lawyer has stated that Quincy is expected to attend the trial, although he denies all charges. Quincy's lawyer, Robert Malowitz, argues that the evidence gathered during the drug investigation should not be used in an unrelated case. The prosecution has requested the court to impose a 2-year prison sentence for the aggravated assault after dropping the previous charge of attempted murder. On the bustling streets of Helsinki, a sinister darkness lurks behind the mask of a respected guardian. Jari Arnio, once hailed as a symbol of law and order, harbors a terrifying secret. Behind the badge of a renowned police chief lies a web of deceit and corruption, a tale of betrayal that shook the very foundation of Finnish society. From orchestrating drug trafficking operations to exploiting his power for personal gain, Arnio's descent into darkness was swift and shocking. But amid the chaos and scandals, one question remains haunting. How did a man sworn to protect and serve become a crime lord ruling the streets of suburban Helsinki in everyday life? Jari Arnio's story begins on September 5, 1957. He grew up in an environment that witnessed both the ordinary and the lurking shadows of the underworld. In 1977, young Arnio stepped into the world of law enforcement by joining the Helsinki police force. This marked the beginning of a journey that would later elevate him to the highest ranks, navigating the complexities of crime and justice in Finland's capital city. Over time, his dedication and talent became apparent, and his relentless pursuit of justice earned him recognition within the force. In 1986, he led a major case against Mika Kalo, a notorious drug lord who had cast a shadow over Helsinki's streets. Jari Arnio's role in prosecuting Mika showcased his skill and determination, laying the foundation for a distinguished career in law enforcement. Arnio's efforts did not go unnoticed, and in 1987 he was honored with the title of Policeman of the Year, a testament to his commitment to upholding the law and protecting the community. These early achievements paved the way for Arnio's rapid rise within the Helsinki police force. His reputation as an exceptional investigator and dedicated public servant continued to grow, solidifying his position as a trusted figure in the city's law enforcement community. However, as the years passed and Arnio's career soared, the shadows that had once silently surrounded him began to creep into his path of glory. The same determination and ambition that had propelled him to the top now entangled him in a web of corruption and deceit. As time went on, Arnio's illustrious career took a dark turn, shrouded by serious allegations of corruption and abuse of power. The events sent shockwaves through the entire law enforcement agency, shaking the very foundation of the legal system. During the years 2011 and 2012 in Helsinki, whispers began to circulate through the corridors of the police department. Jari Arnio, once revered as a symbol of justice, was now accused of exploiting his position for illicit purposes. It was believed that he had used his power to assist a criminal gang in smuggling and distributing a massive 800 kilograms of cannabis into Finland. Initially dismissed as mere rumors, but these accusations were gradually substantiated. In a blatant abuse of power, Arnio employed intimidation tactics, threatening a suspect and tempting to frame an innocent person for drug trafficking. Although the name of this individual remains undisclosed, it is believed that Arnio specifically named him as the head of a drug ring, even though he had no involvement whatsoever. Jari Arnio's actions, driven by greed and deceit, tainted the honor of the very institution he once swore to protect. He even went so far as to deceive his fellow police officers before his misconduct was exposed. Arnio fabricated information and provided it to the police department to cover up his wrongdoings, and was also found to have tampered with evidence. Despite his efforts to conceal his crimes, but Arnio's web of deceit was ultimately unveiled. His attempts to mislead colleagues and hide evidence were exposed, revealing the extent of his betrayal. The once respected police chief now found himself entangled in the very consequences he had created. Justice finally caught up with Jari Arnio in 2016 when he was convicted of corruption charges related to a security company named Trevor. The court found him guilty of serious offenses, including accepting bribes in the form of a van and 2 tablets provided by the company. Arnio was also convicted of violating public registration laws by concealing his relationship with this company. It was reported that he held financial stakes in the company and used his influence to manipulate decisions within the Helsinki Police Department and other areas. So what was the punishment for all these crimes? December 2016 marked a decisive turning point in Jari Arnio's downfall. In a Helsinki courtroom, the once celebrated police chief now stood before a judge, facing a litany of charges that laid bare his betrayal. On that fateful day, a 10-year prison sentence was handed down, a harsh price for his misconduct. However, Arnio was not the only one involved in this dangerous game. Subsequent investigations revealed that Arnio's right-hand man had also participated in tampering with evidence to protect him. This individual was later dismissed from the police department, but his identity has not yet been made public. The misconduct did not stop there. Further investigations revealed that he had abused his position to issue illegal surveillance permits to the district court and provided false information in an extremely sensitive case. These actions had severe consequences and raised serious questions about the transparency of the legal system. The impact of Jari Arnio's betrayal did not stop in the courtroom. The public's loss of trust in law enforcement severely damaged the integrity of the Helsinki Police Department and legal authorities nationwide. The involvement of a high-ranking officer in corruption sent shockwaves through Finnish society, shaking the foundation of trust that the public had built over time. However, perhaps the most striking aspect was the severity of the sentence handed down to Jari Arnio. The 10-year prison sentence was not only harsh, but also a clear reminder of the consequences of abusing power and betraying public trust. Despite the mounting evidence, Arnio remained resolute in his fight against all accusations, refusing to plead guilty. As the charges continued to pile up and the weight of his crimes bore down, Jari Arnio remained steadfast in his defense, adamantly proclaiming his innocence with unyielding determination. He claimed that his actions were part of a legitimate covert campaign to combat the criminal elements he was accused of being involved with. He cited reasons of secrecy and security to justify his use of multiple SIM cards and frequent phone number changes. As the legal battle continued, the cracks in Arnio's story became increasingly evident. No matter how vehemently he claimed innocence, the weight of the evidence against him grew more apparent, raising doubts about the authenticity of his defenses and his true role in the criminal activities. As Jari Arnio's case came to a close, the wheels of justice continued to turn, opening a new chapter filled with ongoing legal struggles and appeals that would further shape his fate. In 2017, Arnio attempted to overturn his conviction, clinging to a sliver of hope amidst the ruins of his once glorious career. However, his efforts proved unsuccessful as Finland's Supreme Court decisively rejected his appeal, affirming that his sentence was final. In 2018, Arnio was swept into a new storm of crime when a shocking accusation plunged him into even deeper despair. Investigators uncovered a startling piece of evidence. Jari Arnio was suspected of involvement in a murder case. He stood trial, accused of failing to prevent the assassination of Volkan Ünsal, which occurred in 2003. Investigators suspected that Arnio had prior knowledge of the assassination plan, but chose not to act to prevent it. Volkan Ünsal, a Swedish-Turkish national, was murdered in October 2003. Before that, Ünsal had received money from a friend during the Arlanda airport heist in Stockholm and had entered the Witness Protection Program. However, he left the program and was shot dead shortly afterward. Prosecutor Jukka Haavisto and investigators confirmed that a government official was suspected of involvement in the murder for failing to prevent the crime. According to reports, the police arrested Arnio along with a former member of the criminal underworld. Chief Inspector Marcus Lane of the National Bureau of Investigation stated that Jari Arnio, 58, was arrested in eastern Finland, but Haavisto declined to comment on whether force was used during the arrest. The courtroom became a battlefield as prosecutors worked to convict Jari Arnio for his role in the case. In December 2020, the verdict was delivered. Life imprisonment, a severe warning about the consequences of failing to act in the face of violence. However, Arnio's troubles did not end there. Another case emerged, accusing him of transferring 30,000 euros out of reach of his creditors. This debt was related to the illicit profits Arnio had gained from criminal activities which he owed to the state. 3 others, whose identities have not been disclosed, were also suspected of aiding in this crime. Just when it seemed that Arnio's fate was sealed, a surprising twist occurred. In February 2022, his sentence was overturned upon appeal, bringing a new glimmer of hope to Jari Arnio in his fight for freedom. However, the story did not end there. In March 2022, Finland's deputy prosecutor filed an appeal with the Supreme Court, thrusting Jari Arnio back into the spotlight once again. The legal battle continued intensely, with Arnio's fate still hanging in the balance. Finally, undeniable evidence came to light. Conversations between Arnio and a crime boss were exposed, revealing that a Swede would carry out the assassination, and Arnio's role was simply to ensure that the Swede would not be suspected after the job was done, leaving no evidence behind. In the end, justice was served. Jari Arnio was sentenced to 13 years in prison for drug trafficking and other crimes. After serving his time, Arnio was released but remained under strict supervision. This marked a critical turning point in his tumultuous story, opening a new chapter in his struggle for redemption. With freedom within his grasp, he stepped back into the world cautiously ever vigilant against the threats surrounding him. However, as time passed, the shadows of the past refused to fade into oblivion. In June 2022, when Arnio's probation period ended, it seemed he had closed a chapter of his life. Yet, the echoes of his crimes continued to reverberate, causing significant aftershocks in Finland's law enforcement landscape. Despite Arnio's efforts to start anew, ongoing investigations lingered over him like an inescapable threat. Law enforcement agencies remained steadfast in their pursuit of the truth, refusing to abandon their quest to fully uncover Arnio's involvement in drug trafficking activities. Arnio's downfall sent shockwaves throughout Finnish society, shaking the very foundations of the nation and leaving the country reeling from the severe damage to its reputation concerning corruption. In the aftermath of Arnio's scandal, urgent measures were implemented to increase oversight of law enforcement agencies, ensuring that no one could wield unchecked power without facing consequences. New regulations were introduced, creating a tight network of oversight that underscored the need for vigilance against the ever-present threats to integrity and trust. Jari Arnio's story, from a respected law enforcement officer to a serious criminal figure, serves as a testament to the complex interplay of factors that shape human behavior. Whether driven by greed, desperation, or a misguided sense of duty, his descent into corruption is a harsh reminder of the inherent weaknesses within us all. What do you think about this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below for everyone to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.